Well, unless you've been living in a cave the past few weeks, I'm sure you've noticed all the webworms we have around Oklahoma this year. And entomologists tell us that they are at kind of the peak of their cycle right now. And fall webworm does run in cycles. It ebbs and flows over the years. And sometimes you'll have a heavy year, sometimes a light one. This is a heavy year. So how can you get along with it? Well, first of all, keep in mind that it only comes twice in late summer. Those webs you get in your trees early in the season in the spring is eastern tent caterpillar, and it's a different critter altogether. But fall webworm has two generations in the fall. The first one came out in June and is just finishing up its cycle. The caterpillars that are up in those webs, and they feed only within the big web out on the ends of the limbs, those worms or caterpillars are starting to drop from the tree. They'll pupate, become adults, and then in mid-August you'll have a second generation when those white moths fly up to the trees, lay eggs, and you have more webs coming out. And that will be the time to control it if you've missed the first generation. First of all, when you talk about control of webworms, you don't always have to spray for it. The trees and the webworms have lived together for generations. But if you have a very serious infestation and it has repeated for 2 or 3 years, you could have some damage to your trees occurring over time. And so if you want to spray, the best product is BT or Bacillus thuringiensis. Comes under several trade names such as Dipel or Thuricide. And the timing on that is as soon as the webs begin to form, then you want to spray the trees while the caterpillars are fairly young. Now, it's a microbial bacterium that will paralyze the gut of the caterpillar, and that's why it's so specific. It doesn't harm beneficial insects. If you go with a broad spectrum spray such as 7, one problem is that pressure from other insects can increase, such as aphids, because beneficials that keep them in check are not around to help keep the aphids under control. Now, some other control options that people employ with webworms get a little extreme. One is to cut the limb off entirely. If you do that, then the tree has no chance of growing new leaves in that spot because you've removed it. So only do that if you have a tree that's been infested 2 or 3 years running and you know that limb is not going to be a major limb and you feel you have to take it off and destroy it. Please don't put fire on the end of a large stick and stick it up in the tree and try to burn the webs out. That can set an entire tree on fire if conditions are dry enough, and one of our volunteers told us he nearly set his house on fire the other day trying to do that. Last of all, if you cut a web down and it's on the ground, please don't spray it with charcoal lighter fluid and light it. The fluid flowing out of the can can be followed by the flame from the webworm all the way up your arm to the container of lighter fluid, so please don't do that either. Fire's really not a good option. Well, I hope this gives you some more information on webworm. Keep in mind again, the trees probably can live with it pretty well. It's just very unsightly. Well, thanks for joining us today on Oklahoma Gardening. Come back and see us next week.
We hope you enjoyed this video. It's part of our OK Gardening Classics YouTube channel. You can also find more recent videos on our Oklahoma Gardening YouTube channel. And join us on social media for great gardening tips, photos, and discussion.